The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah! Go Cowboys! Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, Brian Broaddus, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Friday, July 29th, 2022, Season 18, Episode number 15. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break, presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to Oxnard, California. You got Nick Eatman, Amber Garcia, Brian Broaddus with me. We're talking Cowboys football with you guys for the next, 45 minutes to an hour or so. Got a lot of things we're going to get into today, a lot of topics I want to hit. We got some new players on the team. We got some injury updates. We're going to talk about the quarterback. We haven't had a chance to talk about him yet during this camp, so we've got some questions for these guys on the quarterback and kind of set that up for you all. I did want to make an announcement really quick for those of you out there who are listening and haven't had a chance to check it out, haven't seen it on my Twitter account. Our show is now officially on Spotify. Actually, all of our podcasts are now officially on Spotify. So if you're on Spotify and want to be able to follow us there, it's a good way to be able to follow us there and have all the episodes downloaded to your phone so you can listen to them on the go anytime. So go check that out. Let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit of Cowboys football. Let's start first with some updates here. Cowboys signed a new player yesterday, Kevontae Turpin. Nick, tell me, what are the Cowboys getting with this guy? What have you heard as far as the scouting report on what they're getting from him as a player?
Well, they're getting a super fast guy, speedy, quick. He's got to be because he's 5'6", 5'7", 155 pounds. He's probably the only guy that's wearing like a small over there or medium for the equipment.
Do they
staff.
even have any of those?
I don't know, maybe, but no, but obviously you make up for that with speed and quickness, and he's got return ability. I was showing you some highlights of, I remember Arkansas and TCU playing, and he took over the game, 2016. Yeah. Unbelievable. He reminds me a lot of a Lance Dunbar when he was really kind of going into his thing. I mean, he can be a receiver, a slot guy, but also return. He's had some off-the-field issues, of course, and that's been documented. But he's a really dynamic player, and we'll see what kind of opportunities he gets.
Brian, I had heard some of. I listened to you on the radio as well, 105.3 The Fan. I didn't mention that earlier, but you're also on 105.3 The Fan, G-Bag Nation, and something that's interesting to me is that on that you've talked about this gang of seven.
You do listen to the show.
Yeah, I do. And,
Thank you.
Some of your buddies around the league, different teams, you've kind of pulled together in kind of this little consortium that you consult and get opinions from them on different things about players and stuff like that. But you told me this morning you had talked to some of those guys about Turpin. What was some of the feedback you got on what they thought, what other scouts around the league thought about this player?
Yeah, no, and thank you for mentioning that. The gang of seven, when I go to, are general managers, player personnel directors, gals that I've worked with in the league that study these players and kind of help me with some scouting things that I might not be able to cover all the time. And Gang of Seven was talking about him as what Nick was saying, very talented player, explosive, gadget guy. When they talk about gadget players, a name like people were mentioning like a Lucky Whitehead kind of a guy. Lucky's a little bit thicker guy. But they were saying about him that this is a super talented player that could be a space player, a slot player, a receiver, but mainly a returner. That's the things they were talking about. And to a man, they said that if he hadn't had the domestic violence charges against him, that he would have been a drafted player. But they were saying, hey, if you obviously you have to do your due diligence on the player, and the Cowboys did by signing him. But the USFL tape, my guy said, was really fun to watch because ball in hand, and then all of a sudden this guy making plays. We've all been at mini camps where they had tight ends back here trying to return punts and stuff like that, and OTAs. So they're obviously looking for somebody that can have that kind of take the ball, secure it, and then get up the field and make something happen.
But it feels like every year, I guess, since I've been working here for like maybe the past 6 years or so, that there is a guy that comes in with those kinds of qualities, and we get on the shows and we talk about him that way, describe him that way, and think, man, a guy like this would be great to have on the team. You can utilize him different ways and get some benefit out of him, but I haven't seen much success when getting guys like that. Although this is a different coaching staff, but are you guys thinking that maybe with this coaching staff, they can actually take advantage of player like those?
I kind of feel like that if he was a defensive player, he could, because I
You believe in this defensive
Well, I
coordinator,
mean,
right?
if I was doing shows with you guys last year, and Nick or Ambar, you said, "Hey, what do you think about Micah Parsons playing defensive end?" And I'd have gone, "Wow, I didn't see any Penn State tape that showed me that, but I like what you're doing here."
Yeah.
And I think Ambar's onto something, though. That's the whole thing with coaching. It's about taking players and finding a way to make them part of what you're doing on a weekly basis. And I have full confidence in defensive players. If they told me they were going to bring a defensive guy in here and they were going to move him around and stuff, I'm like, bravo. Offensive coaches, I'm still waiting for them to use Pollard the right way.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, Ambar's
Yeah.
point is absolutely dead on.
But for him to stay here, they could have meetings over there at those trailers, and they said, "What do you think about Turpin on offense?" And like, he's lost. He has no clue where to line up. He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm saying hypothetically that could happen. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, that's unfortunate. Did you see his 37-yard punt return right up the middle? Did you see his kickoff return where he went 42 yards on the outside? Yeah, he's making the team. So he has a chance to kind of control the narrative. The offense, to me, is just bonus stuff. It would be great, get him on the field. If he can return punts and kickoffs, then I think that's going to be his ticket.
Frankly, Mike McCarthy said that yesterday in the press conference. He said, whatever we get from him on offense is gravy, right?
Yeah,
he was basically like, this is a return guy. This is a guy we're looking at to help us with returns. And by the way, it's a position they need.
Mm-hmm.
They need somebody right now to return punts.
When you brought that, I'm glad Nick did that, because to me, when you ask the guys over here in the scouting department, the first word they use is returner.
Yeah.
They don't say receiver.
Yeah.
They say returner. So that's what it brings me back to. We did the same thing in Green Bay with Desmond Howard. Desmond Howard was not even – he couldn't really play wide receiver. But when you brought him on, he returned a punt in a preseason game against Pittsburgh for a touchdown, made the team. At the end of the year, he was Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get lucky with guys like this.
You ever heard of a guy named Darren Hall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kansas
City.
State? Where did he go to college?
I'm not even sure. I know he was in 2000.
Yeah.
He was a little punt return guy. We used to be a truck driver.
Wait, no. Didn't he go to A&M?
He went to Texas A&M,
Yeah, he went to
I thought.
A&M.
Yeah,
he went to A&M. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'm thinking we might be thinking of a different guy. But either way,
Hall.
This guy's
I
name
know
was
what you're
you're thinking of Dante Hall.
Oh, okay. All right. You said he was in Kansas City, right?
This guy played for us
I
in
thought so.
2000, and he was a spark. He was like, oh man, this guy's a returner. He's great. Like, this guy might make the team. He's super fast, little guy. Go to Denver, preseason game, kickoff. The opening kickoff, Darren Hall fumbles. They get the ball, they score a touchdown. They kick off. He fumbles. They get the ball, kick a field goal. Darren Hall got cut like on that Monday after that. So Danny Amendola, same thing. Great punt returner, goes to the San Diego game, fumbles a punt. He ends up getting cut. Now that was a bad decision because he played 22 years. But my point is that he has a chance. Good or bad, we'll see what happens though. But it's all on him. He can go out there and do what he does.
All those names you just mentioned, and even the names like a Lucky Whitehead. I don't think I've ever heard of a player in the NFL that was 155 pounds where he says he is right now. Does that concern you at all?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's little.
Yeah,
that's really little.
But if he's really quick,
Yeah,
if you can avoid,
he better be.
avoid, get down. That's one of those things.
Who are you guys
One
talking
bad
about?
hit, you're out.
Y'all are talking about Dante Hall from the Chiefs.
Yes.
Yeah.
A&M.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, that's what we're talking
this
about.
That's
guy's
what
name-
I was thinking of.
No.
Yeah, I was like,
This
Dante
guy's
Hall,
name
yeah.
was Darren Hall.
I don't remember him.
Right.
There's a reason.
That's my point.
Right.
But I remember Campo was talking about raving about him, because he was fast in practice and all that, but in the games, it just didn't work out.
Here I was on staff, and I
I
can't
was about to
remember
say,
the guy.
yeah, Brian, you probably brought the guy in.
That's part of one of those deals where all of a sudden it's like, you have so many of those names. I told you, Nick was put on this earth to remind me of all the bad players we brought in the early 2000s.
No, it's I heard him yesterday in the press conference, that in the interview they had with him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm 155 right now," and I was just like, "Man, that's so slight." You've seen guys that are 5'9", you've seen guys that look little. 155 pounds though, that seems extremely small. And I do, Brian, you and I were talking about this before the show. I do think sometimes guys that are smaller in stature that are really fast, I think that can be a help for them sometimes, because you got so many big guys on the field. They can kind of use those guys as shields to kind of run around, and it's hard to find them, and they're so quick. By the time you find them, they're gone and by you. So that could be a help, but he's light,
That's
man.
like
But if
20 pounds heavier than me.
That's 15 pounds lighter than me, and I'm pretty light.
Man.
Yeah, but if he was in the 170 range, you wouldn't really think about it that much.
Right.
And he probably, that's about the same size of a guy that's 5'9", 5'10". He's shorter, so therefore that's part of the height. I mean, you saw that highlight that I was showing you where they couldn't bring him down. I mean, he's got some power to him and some shiftiness. I mean, he's figured out a way. I mean, I know that USFL is not like the NFL, but they got big guys over there, I'm sure, and he was the MVP of that league over there. So
Of the entire league?
yes,
Wow, that's impressive.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a dynamic player, and we'll see what his opportunity is. But catch the punt. Number one, go catch the punt, and then get up the field. Don't dance around. You're not Dion, all that. Just get up the field, make plays,
And don't forget the last part. Get down.
get down. Yeah,
Get down.
down.
Don't take hits. Get down. All right, let's get some injury updates. Let's start first with Matt Willetsko. Brian, you had done some research, talked to a couple people. What are you hearing about Matt Willetsko?
Yeah, Matt Willetsko has a subluxation of his shoulder. This is something that he's dealt with in college, and it's they were kind of hopeful that they could get through it. So with that being said, rehab and then return and then hope for the best. So
I love that word, subluxation.
did I say it right?
You said it perfectly, but it's funny because it's so it's just this proper term. In reality, your shoulder pops in, your shoulder pops out, your shoulder pops in, your
Sounds
shoulder pops
painful.
out. Right.
Dr. Eaton just explained exactly
But
what
it's like,
subluxation
you have a
is.
subluxation in your shoulder. Like, what does that mean? It's like he just keeps popping out. Like, that's what happens.
Yeah, that's it's something that he did have in college, and they're hopeful that with some rest, rehab, they can get it squared up, and then eventually they feel like that it could be okay. But this offensive line group didn't need to lose a young tackle. They're relying. They've talked to us opening day about this. They're relying on Ball, Willetsko. Collins is a veteran guy, but they were hopeful that they didn't have to spend money on a swing tackle.
Yeah.
That's been we've come here every year, and it's who's going to be the swing tackle. It seems some veteran guy that's at the very end of his career. They were hopeful that wasn't going to be the case, and he's had some good work. He's had there's been some days where it hadn't been great too, but there's been most part some good work. It's a shame now he's going to miss some days because of this.
How much do you think that affects their desire to not have to go out or want to go out and get a veteran offensive swing tackle?
Yeah.
Do you think that because he may miss some time, again, we don't know how much, but because he may miss some, that may force them to say, we might need to do that?
I think for me, like that's like the fourth domino, and we still haven't knocked the first one down. That's why I look at it from the line. Like, who's playing left guard?
That's key.
Who's playing left guard, and then what happens to Tyler Smith? What if he's the left guard? Then if he's the left guard, that makes more sense there. But if he's not, then what about Terrence Steele? What if does Tyler Smith play right tackle? So then does Terrence Steele, because I think if Terrence Steele was your swing tackle, you'd probably be fine.
Oh,
with
yeah,
that.
you'd love that.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying, to me, it's a domino effect that we haven't really gotten there yet.
Okay.
I kind of feel like, though, real quick, to Nick's point, I really do like what you're talking about because, by the way, left guard wasn't a good spot yesterday. Both McGovern and then Smith had some issues yesterday in practice. Matter of fact, we'll probably get into the practice. This defense is coming. They're bringing a lot of pressure on these guys. It seems like we're going to get into Dak, and maybe some of the things with Dak throwing the ball has been affected by some of the leakage that they've
Someone
had.
told me in the off season, and it's hard to tell about the summer practices. They said watch Tristan Hill.
Yeah.
Watch him, because he's keeping his mouth shut. He's going in there. He's playing. He's a little different guy than the rest. He's not, I don't know if he would be like one of the hot boys if they still do that. You know what I mean? I mean, he just kind of.
I think that's been retired.
I hope so. He kind of just does his thing, but he does it well.
Yeah.
And he gets up the field, and I mean,
disruptive.
He was a problem for those guys yesterday.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna take our. Go ahead, Amber.
I was gonna say, since we're talking about the tackle position and the O-line and all that, I don't know if it's just me in my eyes, but when I saw Tyron Smith out there, just physically, he looks like he's lost a lot of muscle weight. Like, he's still big guy, obviously, and one of the things that we always talk about him, he's like a big machine that just looks like a robot, basically. But seeing him, he's lost muscle. Like, you can see it just when you look at him, and I don't know if like that's concerning or not for the position. And I was talking to some people, it's like, well, you want those guys to be heavy, and he's still heavy and all that, but as far as like, does that mean he's lost some strength or not? Just because
are you saying muscle tone, like he doesn't seem as cut as he normally would? I got you.
When you see somebody they're
I
strong.
Think, I think
he just looks like he has his weight.
To me, I've never ever worried about Tyron Smith being in shape or and his body.
Oh,
It's always remember he always works on his core because of the back.
Yeah.
I think that Tyron Smith, and I've said this before on 105.3 The Fan, I just think he needs some good luck. I mean, he doesn't need guys falling around behind him and then falling into his ankles and his knees, and it seems like he gets hurt that way more than the back might be back tightness occasionally, but it's some bad luck that he has in games as well. I think Ambar's right. He doesn't look as big, but he'll tell you, man, he's in the best shape he's been in a long time.
And maybe that's part of what they're doing here, because if you think about the last 3 or 4 years, it has been. I mean, we don't even ask if he's going to get hurt. We just kind of think when it's going to be a setback. So maybe that is part of it. Maybe that that they've looked at his body and they said, all right, why don't we try this approach a little bit here? Maybe you're carrying a lot of muscle here, and on your neck and your shoulders and elbows and all that. So
maybe worked on flexibility. There are lots of things that guys, as you get older, they start changing how they train to give them more longevity, right?
Yeah, I think for me, the first really big hit, his next big hit needs to be Sunday night, September 11th against the Bucs. So
you're doing a Dave Hellman, like we've seen
him.
Go sit down.
For him, yeah. Because I think he's the type of guy that can plug right in there when healthy and do that. Not everyone else. Some guys need it. I'm not saying Zach Martin. No, I am saying that. Zach Martin could do that too.
He definitely could.
Yeah. But it's such a tricky deal, and I know we're getting off topic a little bit, but it's so tricky because you want to say, Zach, Tyron, you're good. But the left guard needs to work with those guys, and Tyler Biotish needs both of them, and Terrence Steele needs Zach Martin there.
Tyler Smith he probably needs a little bit of work with Tyron. I mean, I think that probably would be helpful for him as you're trying to move him along and get him acclimated to that position.
I can't wait to see that when Tyler's really playing well and Tyron is healthy. Just a strong left side like that. Because it's usually the right side that's kind of your
Most teams are right-handed running the football.
But that would be...
You might be able to move people.
That'll be really interesting, yeah.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Dak Prescott. I got a lot of questions for these guys. Mike McCarthy talked about him yesterday. Dak had a press conference yesterday. There were a few things that came out of that. We'll do that when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Little Sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Back to the break.
All right, if you're watching from home or cheering in the stands, you're going to need some Essilor lenses to watch every exciting play. Book an appointment at your local Essilor experts and find the perfect Essilor lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor. All right, well, you know who we don't see right now is Derek Eagleton, but there he is. He's coming in. We're going to talk. I know we're going to talk about Dak Prescott. That's what we're going to set up here. So he had a press conference the other day and yesterday, and we were talking about Dak Prescott.
On the radio, we call that vamping. That's vamping right there. Some good vamping going on.
Thank
right
you, guys.
There. Yeah,
I
Nick was vamping
had
well.
A quick break.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So we're going to talk Dak Prescott. You already do the read?
I did.
All right, thank you.
I'm always doing the read.
You didn't see him do the read. It was an Essilor read.
I was not paying attention. I was running, trying to get to my chair. So let's talk about Dak Prescott yesterday. Mike McCarthy, his quote, "The Super Bowl is won by quarterbacks," which I thought was interesting. He did preface it with, obviously, we all have heard the saying, defense wins championships, but he says Super Bowl is won by quarterbacks. Ray Lewis
enters the chat. Is that what they say?
Right. Yeah, and quite frankly, I don't know that I disagree with him. I think that's probably very true. My question for you guys, though, is how would you assess Dak relative to Super Bowl quarterbacks? Like, you look at the quarterbacks that have been in the Super Bowl the last several years. All of you have watched every play that Dak Prescott has had in his career.
Does that include Jimmy Garoppolo that was in the Super Bowl
Yes,
recently?
you can. You can certainly put him in there. But how do you assess Dak when you start thinking about those quarterbacks and saying, is he that kind of quarterback? Is he ready for that? Can he get this team to a Super Bowl?
Well, I think I just have to start by not to be difficult, but I don't agree with that statement. I don't. So, but
why not?
Because because it's been proven that it's not true. Quarterbacks don't necessarily win the Super Bowl. I think you've got to have a very good quarterback that knows how to play timely football in the playoffs. Playoffs is a different animal. I don't think it's. I mean, it's kind of like hockey. The playoff atmosphere is completely different, and I think you've got to have a quarterback that's got. He's got to have the sack for it. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know what ways to say it. He's got to be able to do it. I'm sorry. He's got it when the playoffs come down. He's going to have to be able to step
up.
Well said,
Nick. I think you're right.
And most of them are really good. Most of the teams have really good quarterbacks. But we have seen you've got to do something amazing on your team. Most of the time, it's your offense and your quarterback. If it's not, then I'm sure the defense. I mean, the Jeff Hostettlers of the world have won Super Bowls, and Trent Dilfer and Jim McMahon. But
Brad
guess what?
Johnson.
But what they had on the other side, you've got to do something amazing.
Those are usually all-time defenses, though.
Yeah,
and that's where I kind of disagree with you a little bit.
I don't think they win the Super Bowl, but I think you've got to have one that knows how to win games. And Garoppolo is that guy. He's going to lose a game for you in Week 9 or whatever, but there's something to him. I'm just surprised that the 49ers want to let him go. I'll be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. For a guy that went to North Dakota State, I mean, Carson Wentz did that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Good comparison. I think, to me, I do like what you said there.
All of it? Every word?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. I like what you did. The thing about these quarterbacks and stuff is that the elite ones find ways to elevate games of others. They find a way to, if maybe, it's you look at the Rodgers and the Bradys, the Mahomes, I mean, these guys find ways. The thing with Dak to me is I'm waiting for him to elevate games. Even Tony Romo elevated Laurent Robinson's game to where, I mean, you, as a quarterback and as an elite quarterback, you have to find a way to do that. And with Dak, the leadership is unquestioned. The physical toughness, unquestioned. The health here recently hasn't been as good. But I think when you start to talk about these guys, Nick was saying about in playoff games, when things are not going well and all of a sudden you make a tough throw, you make another tough throw, you run for a first down, and all of a sudden the team feels that and gets going. That's, I think, the thing that really with Dak right now is whose game is he elevating? And we're going to see because of these receivers. We're going to see if he can elevate Tolbert's game. We're going to see if he can elevate Washington's game. We're going to see he elevated. It looks like to me Dalton Schultz's game a little bit, but it's you've got to find
Wilson.
You've got to find a way to just that team feels it, and that's the reason why. And I mean, it's funny because you watch him play, and I'm like, man, this guy. I just remember Mississippi State. They were a number one team in the country. They were number one team in the country, and as a scout, you go through and watch Mississippi State's talent, and you're like, where are all the first-round picks?
It's all because
no, it's the quarterback.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm kind of waiting for here with Dak. I'm waiting for that. He's going to just take everybody's game and elevate it to that point.
But do you think, because I do believe he was at that point where he was doing a lot of that before the injury, and I'm talking about the major injury. That major injury happened against the Giants.
Yeah.
I think before, and I think that's also part of the game that was missing last year.
Right.
Is that dynamic part of his game where he could take off running, and he's never going to be he's not that electrifying runner like a Mike Vick was. He's that guy he's an effective runner.
See,
that's exactly right. And I think that's
yeah.
the part that was missing last year, but I think if that's back in his game, I think he does elevate this offense to places that it wouldn't be otherwise.
I totally agree with you on that because to me, I always felt like when Dak Prescott when he took that first hit, he got the feel of the game. He's like, okay, now I know what I have to do. I'm going to scramble left. I'm going to run. I'm going to run into somebody. I'm going to get a first down. And now he's into the flow of the game. And, last year it was like he comes out here, the third practice, the shoulder. Then all of a sudden you're dealing with the calf. Mm-hmm. Before that was the ankle. He needs to have that year where and he looks like he's confident now that if I had to take off running and run over somebody and do all that he would be just fine. If he gets that element back in the game, then again we talk about elevating everybody's game as well.
All right,
I think the Cowboys can definitely win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott being their quarterback, for sure. Now, going back to your point is, who does he have around him? He's the type of quarterback that we haven't seen him be able to, like you said, elevate he needs people. He needs the help of the O-line. He needs the help of the receivers, running back. Kellen Moore, the game
play caller.
plan,
there
the
you go.
play
Yeah,
caller.
absolutely.
That's something that we saw even last year. They need to figure that out. So it's not like, let's just leave it all up to Dak, let him make the plays. Even if he had that running aspect of his game, I think Kellen Moore needs to step up his game, the play calling, the receivers, and let's say more than the receivers, because obviously they're going to need help this year there because they're trying to figure out what that's going to look like. But again, going back to the O-line, is the O-line going to be able to allow the running game to get going, to allow Zeke to become that guy again, or let him run through? Tony Pollard, we keep talking about him and he's talent. Let him play more. But how much can he really do with the O-line that we've seen even last year? So they need a lot of pieces to start coming together. But I definitely think Dak can be the guy to lead them to a Super Bowl, but he can't be Aaron Rodgers and carry everything on his back or be that type of player. And we've talked, there's very few quarterbacks that are like that in the league.
That's why they're elite. Yeah, the elite ones have that. I think AG she's right about that with that offensive line. I think that the thing that they lacked is the balance. The ability. I always felt like that Dak's best stat line was 23 for 29 for 261 yards, 3 touchdowns. When Dak's throwing for 400 yards
and about 30 rushing yards.
Yeah. I'm saying it seems like
key.
It seems like the team was in a better spot offensively when it had that kind of balance to it.
You said you guys were talking about the running game and making those plays. You go back to that playoff win he had in 2018 against Seattle. Late in the game, they've got the lead, and if they get a field goal, it's going to keep Russell Wilson in play. They need a touchdown. It's like 3rd and 14, and he goes right up the middle, gets the first down, flips over, gets to the 1 yard line, basically wins the game. That's the type of guy he has to get back to, and he's got to throw that injury out of his mind. I'm sure it is, but he's got to play that way. Kellen's got to call it that way. That's the Dak that got him. That's the Dak that led Mississippi State to being number one. That's the Dak that helped this team in the first few years.
He's got to be. Can be that way
he's got to
year?
be.
I absolutely think
I think
he
so,
can.
and I do
think
think
he
so.
can, yeah.
And I think he's there mentally to get physically.
Yeah.
You know, like mentally, he's got to get. He's got that mental block, I think, that was there last year. I think it's gone now.
And I also think the only thing that could hold him back at this point would be coaches, maybe even front office saying, "Hey
said.
guys,
Yeah.
Dak, we don't want you running." I don't think they're going to do that anymore. Like
No.
now,
They
you
need
need
him.
You need to let him
Because
be Dak.
he's not Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers,
Yeah.
Josh Allen, Chargers, Herbert. He's not that guy. They go, that's okay. That's not what he is. Even though he said in the press conference, and the tight end was saying it too. All those receivers.
Yeah, they're saying got
a little
some zip on the ball.
Some zip on the ball a little bit. So maybe he's ready to do that. But I think that the Dak that's on the move and being the versatile guy.
That's what makes him special.
That's the one they need.
Yeah. That's what makes him special. That takes him from being a pretty good quarterback to, my opinion, him being a special quarterback, and that's what they really need on this team. They need a special quarterback.
He's good enough. Just look at the last 5 years of quarterbacks that are even in the Super Bowl. Like those guys, a lot of those guys aren't even on with their team anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why I don't know if I buy in that quarterback wins the Super Bowl. I don't know. I think that you can do it different ways.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our final break. When we come back, we got more talk on Dak Prescott. I'm going to ask these guys where Dak needs to be better in 2022 than he was in 2021. We'll talk about that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Brace yourself for an existential question. Has your butt been having enough fun lately? Have you been treating it well? Has it been going places? If not, then it's about time you start using SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the best way to get your butt tickets to live events. Just ask the thousands of other butts who have rated it the #1 ticketing app. So what are you waiting for? Download the app now or visit SeatGeek.com to get tickets to sports, concerts, and live events and make your butt happy. SeatGeek. Get your seat in a seat.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, sinking, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to the break.
All right, head out to the Star in Frisco for the Miller Lite Fantasy Football Fest, presented by DraftKings on Saturday, August the 20th at 5 p.m. Hear from fantasy experts like Brian Broaddus.
Yeah.
And former players. Draft your team, enjoy food and drink and more. Visit thestarinfrisco.com/fantasyfest.
Welcome back to the break presented by Miller
Love
Lite.
fantasy football.
I love it. I'm so happy when we play.
This segment is brought to you by
Eric
blockchain.com.
on
We're
the
talking about
sidelines. Come on! What are we doing here?
Nothing pisses off Brian more than just like, hey, Brian, I got a question on my fantasy team. Like, click.
I just remember we were all one of the best pictures I think we ever took was we were all around the red kettle, and everybody was looking down at their phone. Everybody was looking at their phone. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, okay, Derek is doing fantasy football right now. Which is like everybody had something going on in that.
There's a lot to think about on
Not
game
me.
day,
I
and
was
it's not always
cheesing at
just
the
after
camera.
one.
I saw James, and y'all were looking down. I was just like, glamour shot.
There's a lot to think about.
You
on
put
game
that
day.
on my badge.
All right. We're talking Dak Prescott. Question I have for you guys. Where does Dak need to be better in 2022 than he was in 2021? And I'm talking about specifically the second half of 2021 because that's the time that it seemed like this offense just hit a brick wall. Where does he need to be better?
Get it, AG.
Well, I mean, the big thing is the mental side, and we've talked about that before, but I'm thinking it's just, and this goes along with the mental side of things, it's just letting it flow, let it become second nature again. You know, he had that before. We've seen that where he can like quickly do things. Last year, I think that you could see a lot of the times where he's just hanging around in the pocket waiting to see, okay, who do I throw it to? But then someone gets in, a defender gets pressure and all that, and then it just ruins the whole play. And I think it's just allowing that to become, again, second nature to him. But it's easy to say that, but the receivers got to be there. You got to get the help of the game plan of what's going on. If the receiver, we're still with a bunch of question marks right now, if that's not fixed, how's Dak going to be able to, okay, boom, I got you. Oh, boom, I got Dalton. Boom, CD. So that's the part that's not just. He's gonna again need help of everybody else for him to be able to get back to just playing football without having to think so much. And we saw it a lot, even just watching him play. You can see it on the camera when they look at a close up. He's like, he's not, boom. It's just a lot of that you can see a lot of things are going through his mind.
A lot of clutter.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah, I think to me, you know, when I'm never worried about Dak Prescott, the physical side, because he's always going to work hard. He's going to go to the Dak yard and work with all the receivers there at Frisco and figure all that out. It's the mental thing. How did Vic Fangio come up with a game plan that paralyzed you and Kellen Moore? You know, and then all of a sudden we started to see teams just play a shell coverage, a cover two look, you know, funnel receivers and all that. Ambar's right, though. How many sacks did we see Dak near the line of scrimmage, yard behind the line of scrimmage? It was hold, oh, sack, you know, and whether you're waiting for receivers or whether you're trusting what you're seeing. If I had the chance to talk to Dak and, you know, he was up on the podium, and I know we're going to get a chance to interview him next week, I want to know what the mental side, what did you and Kellen do this summer and sit down, and was there something you went through on your cut-ups that from the Denver game on back that people were doing to you? Now, he's probably not going to tell me what they were playing against him, but I think the mental side of the game, what he's seeing, I just have visions of that Washington game where Holcomb, the linebacker, goes right and he throws the ball right to him, and and then the game became it was in the balance, and I'm like, oh, he didn't see him, you know, and so I just wonder. I hope the mental side of the game for Dak. And I'm not talking about being dumb or smart. I'm just talking about what he's seeing and then how he's be able to function with what he sees.
You know, I think at the end of the season, it's just a lot of snowball effects there. I mean, after that Denver loss, but I mean, they lost 3 games. You know, 3 games in the second half of the season after that. 2 of them, like we talked about, Kansas City and the Raiders there on
a tough stretch for them, yeah.
It was, you know, and then they lost again to the Cardinals.
And let's not forget the playoff game, because I think that lingers in a lot of people's minds as well. That game against San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like what you guys said is right. I mean, he's got to get back to being him, and I like that about flow. You know, just letting it flow where you're not thinking as much. But they need that offensive line to be. I mean, they've got to lean on the running game. They've got to do that. They've got to have where they could run in the red zone. They get down at the 15-yard line. They've got to be able to run the ball when it gets tight in there. And you know, Zeke's got to be Zeke, Pollard. Those guys have got it, because when they can be two-dimensional offense, then I think that certainly helps their quarterback.
So essentially what you're saying is that it's not even about Dak for you. You think Dak plays well enough, has played well enough for them to be successful. It's about all the other pieces, the offensive line, the running game.
We saw rookie
the
Dak
offensive
do
coordinator,
this.
all those things. Yeah.
You know, Dak is a much better player physically, mentally. He understands the game way more than he did as a rookie. With that year, though, they caught lightning in a bottle, whatever it was, but it was they were moving the ball, and it was running, behind Zeke, running behind that offensive line. It's not a bad thing to say that he needs help. He needs help because there's one guy in Green Bay that doesn't necessarily. We're about to find out if Mahomes how much help he needs.
Well, we're gonna see. I mean, I think for Aaron, he's not gonna have the guy that's been his go-to for the last few years. They're about to change that up. So we're gonna see. Does he still have that? Like we've seen him do it before. Does he still have that? It's hard to be in the NFL and not have even Tom Brady, the greatest. He's got players.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of players right now, especially.
He's got better players in Tampa than they did in
absolutely.
But I want also let's throw this out there too. Are we 100% sure that Devontae Adams is a superstar?
We're about to find out.
Yeah,
because it goes both ways.
Because I've seen it happen with Aaron Rodgers guys and even Brady's guys. They get to other places and they end up coming back a lot of the times. Deion Branches of the world.
It's funny you say that because we were interviewing Anthony Brown on our show and asked the best combination he's played against, and he was talking about Adams and Rodgers. I mean, he just said, no, he goes, that's the best combination I've ever faced.
Let me ask about Anthony Brown, number 3. Is he the best number 3 on the field right now? Because the other guy,
Houston, right?
I mean,
Houston does look
Dennis
good.
Houston, he gets a lot of snaps too.
He gets a lot of snaps.
He's been working with the ones at sometimes during camp so far. Wide receiver.
Yep. Yeah, I think that to me he got a lot of snaps in the OTAs and mini camps because you were down, and so all of a sudden
Derek was running routes.
He showed he's not gonna bust, and they're gonna play you. They'll play you as long as you're not out there busting routes.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't. Sorry to,
no,
but I don't think did we even talk about James Washington last?
Yeah, he had a shoulder bruise and played through it.
No, he's been practicing and all that, and it's fine. But again, I remember back at what was it? Was it OTAs or minicamp?
He didn't practice at all.
He had something else going on and stuff. But again, this is at a position of need. Are you guys concerned at all? Even though he was out there and he seems to be okay, but the fact that there was another thing that kind of pops up again, is this something that's kind of concerning to the point where
I've been concerned. Honestly, I think if they're going to make a big move in training camp or going into the season, 2 positions. I'm looking at linebacker and I'm looking at wide receiver. I'm interested to see how things flow through the 3 preseason games, and if the offense, I'll tell you, the defense is taking it to the offense pretty good in these 2-minute drills,
which is not uncommon.
Which is not uncommon. But, I mean, there's a lot of times where these quarterbacks are having to move or, guy tags off as they're trying to get rid of the ball. So, yeah, I still have my concerns. I think if they make a big move, they've got cap space. I think if they make a big move, it'll be for a wide receiver. They got a new receivers coach here, too. And, we'll see what happens. Maybe there's some guys out there that he's coached before that might come in here and play.
And James Washington right now, I don't know if it's rust, but it doesn't look right for him.
He doesn't look quick.
There's something. The way he kind of bounces around and it's not smooth yet.
No.
And I know he's coming off he had a foot injury, now a little bit of a shoulder, but the fact that he played through it.
He played through it, yeah.
And I don't know if that's necessarily him or if that's also
you can't afford to take a day off.
Let's go now. Yeah. Come on.
You want to make it, right?
Yeah, because in the summer nosebleeds will keep you out for a week here, because that's what they're trying to do. But out here, when you have limited practices now, it's got to go. And I thought he played okay yesterday, but he still kind of seems off. He's not as fluid. And here's a guy that I've followed since he was in high school. I've seen him, and I really love his game, but it hasn't translated so far out here just yet.
All right, so real quick, before we end the show, I got 2 questions for you guys. Let's start first. We're talking about Dak Prescott. We've had 2 practices out here. What have you seen from him? Give me a quick assessment on what you've seen from him during these 2 practices.
Well, I mean, the defense has been better than the offense, and so and to me, it comes down to the offensive line. There's 2 or 3 decent linemen right now, good to decent linemen. I think there's 11 defensive ends. So when they get into the when they start rotating all that stuff, and that's also the nature of what they're doing too, because it's a lot easier for Dorrance Armstrong to rip around the edge and get close to the red jersey and be like sack, and then everyone's stopping the ball. Then it's like, damn, the defense is kicking offensive ass. When in reality, if Tyler Smith or Tyron Smith or whoever can really get their hands on a guy and put him down. It's like,
by the way, they're not in pads.
Yeah. But it's like, you really didn't get by me. Terrence Steele's like, he could say, okay, yeah, you think you got by me, but if I was able to put my hand in your throat and put you down, like, you're not touching anybody.
Yeah.
So it's easy to say the defense, but to answer your question about Dak, I think that they've struggled somewhat, and it stems from that offensive line like that. It'll be fine. Too early to worry about it.
Amber.
It is pretty early, but from what I have watched so far, and there have been good plays here and there, but just overall, the things that I have watched hasn't been very impressive. There's been a lot of misses, especially getting like those long field passes. The short ones, they're okay. Get it or whatever, like a short pass to Tony, a short pass to CD or whatever, hand it up to, those have been working. But when you try to make those long passes, down deep throws, it hasn't been working out. And again, still early and all that, but just overall, my overall assessment so far is it hasn't been impressive.
Hasn't looked smooth. It hasn't really looked smooth. I think Ambar and Nick are absolutely right about that. I think there's been some throws. We haven't seen those wow plays. We haven't seen now. They had one where he took advantage of an offsides in a 2-minute drill and then fired the ball in the middle and made a nice play there. But he hasn't, like AG's talking about, connected on those plays where the crowd goes nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some of the pressure has been a problem. I think the defense has played pretty well against him and has made it difficult for him to have to make some of those wow plays.
All right, so we're going to end the show with you guys giving me just one observation that you've had from training camp over the first 2 practices. It can be any position, any player, just someone that stood out to you. It could be good, it could be bad, but give me one thing that stood out to you during training camp so far.
I thought, coming into this, I was not very confident at all at Josh Ball as a capable backup tackle. 2 practices, though, he's proved me wrong. He's a much better player. I don't know if he's completely strong as he needs to be right now, but he is a good athlete, and you could see him with the athletic ability kind of wall guys off. We haven't seen him we'll see with the pads on, but he's a much better option than I gave him credit for coming into this camp.
I like, and I'm a firm believer that your jersey number can change the way I view you. Rico Dowdle, to me, at number 23, I really like what I'm seeing out of him. I know he had the ACL injury last year, but he looks shifty and really quick, and I don't know where he can fit in on this team. I don't know how necessarily he makes the team, but I like what I see, and I mean he's going to have 300 rushing yards in preseason, so everyone's going to love that because Zeke's going to get a carry and Tony's going to get 3, and then it's a good situation for backup running backs, and I think he looks good so far.
To me, one thing that stood out is 2 defensive backs, Mukwamo and Nashawn Wright. I guess I haven't had the chance to see them up close until now. And these guys are freaking tall, and there is some length. You see them on the field, they just extend, one tentacle goes out, boom. So it's like that's really good to see the length that these 2 guys have, and then I guess combining them, that's something that I think that the defense definitely needs, especially on the backfield. So that's something that definitely caught my eyes, those 2 guys.
Those 2 guys were walking to the lunch area the other day, just next to each other, and it's like, wow, it's like, when's Lakers practice start? And me and Shannon were walking this way, and I said, all right, 2-on-2, you guys against us, who wins? And McQuamma was like, is that really a question? And Shannon was like, I didn't ask it. Yeah, I mean, but you're right, though. They got a lot of link to them. And
McQuamma, he's got a little attitude to him. He's been barking out there a little bit, which I like. I like that.
Well, he called Dan Quinn called him on draft day, as a corner. He was drafted as a corner. He was like, you got the best corner in the draft. I was like, well, that's cool. We're moving you to safety. Right? But anyways, I love that. Okay, well, you're going to have the best safety, and but Nashawn Wright, he's a 3rd-round pick that gets lost in the shuffle.
Nobody talks about him. Nobody talks about him
because there's a 2nd-round pick in the same draft that's trying to get. Kelvin Joseph is trying to get on the field. I mean, it's a deep cornerback position.
And Brown ain't giving it up. He's playing some good football right now.
If anything, Brown
he's been one of the guys that's probably popped out here more than anybody else, I think, in these first 2 practices.
He has, absolutely.
All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We are back on next Tuesday. Remember, we got Talking Cowboys coming up on Monday. We'll be on Tuesday and Thursday next week. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Amber Garcia, Brian Broaddus, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!